Welcome to Arise News. You're watching the Global Business Report. The big, beautiful bill has, of course, passed the U.S. Senate and now the U.S. House and has made it to U.S. President Trump's desk just in time on the deadline that he put forward of July the 4th, which, of course, is a public holiday to celebrate U.S. independence. So U.S. markets are closed today. Now, the big, beautiful bill does take aim at renewable energy credits. So there are a number of credits that will be ending between September and December of this year, and then another one, energy credit on houses that are being built to renewable energy standards. That's going to be getting cleared out by June the 30th of 2026. So $7,500 EV credit ending September 30th, $4,000 US EV credits that ends September 30th, 30% on rooftop solar credits that ends December 31st, geothermal credits, energy efficient home improvement credits also ending as well. Want to get reaction to that? Heading over to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, to speak with Sam Jurrens, who of course is the CEO of Robinhood. Sam, happy Independence, happy July 4th. Thanks for waking up really early to talk to us as always. What is your reaction to this bill?
Morning, Rodis. Got my red, white, and blue on today to celebrate with you. I think some of the biggest contention was it didn't really address the spending side. It really focused on the revenue side. I think the administration's view is they're planning to make that up in growth. Last time I was on, I know we talked about GDP. That saw a dip predominantly from some of the front running from tariffs. However, on the backside now, I think we'll probably see some pretty immense growth numbers, pretty much from the foreign investments alone. If you calculate the average amount that's been committed over 4 years, you're talking almost 4% in GDP alone. So we could see some serious growth. I don't doubt that, but I think a lot of people are pretty nervous about, he ran on cutting spending, and we just haven't seen that yet. They kind of came through on the revenue, on the tax side, but definitely not the spending side.
Gotcha. And what do you make of all these renewable energy credits that that expire with that the bill essentially takes out? Electric vehicles, rooftop solar credits, geothermal, and the likes. How does that impact the renewable energy industry in the U.S.?
Personally, I'm not a big fan of subsidies. It kind of messes with market forces, if you will. You had a significant amount of investments and people trying to take advantage of some of these credits, which the majority of those businesses have now failed. I think we'll probably see a few more failures because of this. That kind of pulls the rug out of them, in cases where the finances didn't really make sense in the first place. So I think it's a good move to let the market take over. A lot of those items are very good and attractive, especially for businesses to invest in. On the residential side, you don't get the depreciation, but on a commercial side, you do. And if you believe energy prices are going to rise, and energy is one of your biggest costs, kind of makes sense to use a lot of renewables, especially solar. You look long term, I think there's nothing that's going to stop the force of solar over the next 10, 20, 30 years. You're seeing that in a lot of the countries, specifically like China, the amount of solar investments they've made over there as well. So I think getting the credits out of the way is going to let the market kind of take over. And a lot of these technologies are, as they improve in efficiencies, are just going to make more and more sense over time. And getting rid of the subsidies kind of lets the market pursue what really makes sense and not, kind of skewed by any of the credits.
And you share that view as well for electric vehicles?
Yeah, absolutely. In America, we don't actually have as many options. You saw GM in their last earnings see some of the largest EV sales that they've had in the history of the company, which is great for them. However, most of the businesses here, the manufacturers here, are so far behind Tesla. It's kind of crazy in terms of EVs. So I think it will be difficult. Overseas, I know EVs are a lot more prevalent. So it may have, some impact. But whenever you're looking at a used car market, some of especially the Teslas, it's a very attractive price already without that credit. So I don't think it will have, it maybe has near-term impact, but longer term, I don't think it's going to have a massive impact for especially a company like Tesla.
I do want to get your thoughts on tokenization of private securities. I want to play a clip of Vladimir Tenev, who is the co-founder and CEO of Robinhood. He was on a podcast making the case that Robinhood is going to look into, tokenization of private securities. Here's what he said.
Actually, in the Washington Post a couple months ago that I published that makes the case for tokenizing private securities. So if you think about it, right now it's hard to invest in OpenAI or SpaceX as a private company. And I think crypto can help solve that. So if you tokenize private companies, it'll be good for the companies and also for investors. It's crazy to me that you can't invest in companies like SpaceX and OpenAI, but we have clarity on meme coins and people can basically invest in those free.
Now, I do also want to get your reaction to OpenAI. They did put out a statement, and I want to read that to you, just so I can get your thoughts on tokenization and I guess the pushback from OpenAI. They've essentially said, and this is a statement that they put out, OpenAI, or rather, these OpenAI tokens are not OpenAI equity. We do not partner with Robinhood. We're not involved in this and do not endorse it. Any transfer of OpenAI equity requires our approval. We did not approve any transfer. Please be careful. So I guess I do want to get your thoughts on tokenization and I guess the response from OpenAI.
Yeah, OpenAI's statement really stemmed from the presentation publicly that Robinhood made. I think it was on Monday. They used OpenAI as a example, kind of a live example. So that's where I don't think OpenAI necessarily opposes tokenization. It's more so it looked like they were kind of endorsing it. On the private side, I can't really wrap my mind around how that can work. But I think the biggest announcement in the tokenization was actually they're tokenizing publicly traded securities. If I look at the administration, there is no other administration that would be, pushing this through or approving it. The SEC chair came out and said they fully endorse tokenization, are going to help accelerate the process. This will, in my opinion, be the biggest change to the financial markets in over a century. I'm kind of shocked with how little of shockwaves it has made. During their presentation, the Robinhood CEO literally said they expect to roll this out in a few months to make it where it's actually internalized tokenization, essentially just replacing the market. This is one of the biggest changes. On the private side, I legally, I can't wrap my head around how that works, but if it does and pans out, I mean, I don't understand the purpose of any company going public at that point. If you have liquidity, you have the ability to issue shares on a tokenized basis. I don't understand, why a company would go public after that. But for them to also tokenize publicly traded securities, they are changing what could be the infrastructure of the financial system, the entire everything. It is one of the largest announcements just to the public side. The private side's been tried a few times. Liquidity, I think, is a massive issue. I don't know how there can really be a good market for a private business even after you tokenize it. I am pro this process. I think it's better. I think it's going to make markets more accessible long term. I think we're going to have a lot of learning curves because, the American financial system itself, it was built over 100 years, learning from, many mistakes. And when we look back, this is changing everything. So I really do think they made one of the biggest announcements. You've seen it in their stock price. It went from $60 to $100 over the last month. I just think the market's not really listening to this innovation that they did that I think will disrupt the legacy providers, especially of the markets, more than any other innovation we've seen in quite some time. So it's very impactful announcement.
Sounds huge. You're going to be looking forward to how things develop over time in that space. Sam Jurrens, CEO of Even Heard. I want you to enjoy your July 4th holiday. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.